You can draw this in Procreate. During this easy Procreate tutorial, I will be guiding you through the steps of creating this outer space scene. We'll start by creating all these basic shapes with flat colors, and then once we have all that, we will start adding texture and bring this piece to life. We will be using free brushes only, brushes that are already in the Procreate app, and some brushes from my free treasure chest brush pack, which you can find through freefromflow.com. And if, once you have reached the end of this tutorial, if you feel that urge to share your work, be sure to tag me. If you're sharing your work on Instagram, tag me in the image, not just in the description, so I will be able to find your work and maybe we will see it in the next video. Just like these awesome results from my friends at Patreon. That's the place to satisfy your Procreate tutorial addiction, because there I have more than 100 Procreate tutorials ranging from beginner level to more advanced levels. Now let's get started with this tutorial. The canvas we're using is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. Color profile is set to sRGB, and I have created a color palette for you, which I have linked in the description. So grab your pen or your finger or whatever you use to draw and let's get started. The first thing we'll do is create a color for our background. On layer 1, let's go to the color palette and grab this second color in the first row. And we'll drag it onto our canvas. Next, we'll create a new layer by going to the layer menu and we'll tap the plus. And for our color, we are going to grab this one over here. It's the 5th color in the first row. And for the brush, I would like to use the script brush, which you can find under calligraphy. It's a Procreate standard brush. And with this brush, the harder you press with your pen, the thicker your brush stroke will become. And if you press lightly, it'll be very thin. But of course, this only works if you are using an Apple Pencil or another pen that has pressure sensitivity. Now I have the opacity of this brush set to 100% and I have my size set to 15%. And I will start about, well, at the halfway point of our canvas. And then we are going to make a wobbly line from left to right. We are going to create some mountain shapes. So just wiggle your way, go up and down to mimic this mountain range. Try to vary a little bit. Go up here and then all the way to the right. Make sure you go all the way from the left to all the way to the right. Then drag in the color. And perhaps you need to adjust your color drop threshold. You'll see it here at the top if you move from the left to the right. Go all the way to the right, just to that point where it doesn't spill all over. Next, we are going to make another layer. So we'll go to the layer menu again, tap the plus, and this time we'll grab the next color, which is the 6th color in the first row. And we are going to make more like mountains or hill shapes. Let's start a little bit higher over here and make another wobbly line. You can go above the other line in some instances and a little bit lower here. Here we can go a little bit higher again and wobble our way to the right. Then drag in the color over here. And now we have the first layers of our piece. Let's make another layer on top. We'll go to the layer menu, then tap the plus. And now we are going to create a big shape in our foreground. For the color, we are going to use this last color in the first row. We'll start about here and we'll make a rock-like shape, a pointy rock. Then we'll go down here. Over here, we'll go to the right. We'll go back up here. Make jagged shapes. Over here, we'll go up again. And back down, all the way to the right. Then we'll drag in a color again to fill our shape. Now I want the shapes to be nice and jagged, nice and pointy. We can add some more pointy shapes by using the eraser. If you tap and hold the eraser, it'll switch to that script brush. Because you don't want your eraser to be set to like a very soft brush, because you don't want your rocks to have soft, blurry edges. Rocks have crisp edges. So we can just go along some of these edges and make them more crisp, more pointy. Over here, this is a little bit of like a wobble. We can Give it a little bit more of a crisp, pointy edge over here as well. So just go along some of those areas to adjust your rock a little bit. And then once you have your rock shape, we are going to go and add a new layer. We are going to do that underneath this rock layer. So first we'll tap layer 3, then we'll tap the plus, and then for our color, we are going to grab this one over here. It's the 9th color in the first row. We'll start a little bit above this rock, then we'll go to the right, then we'll go back a little bit, to the right, back a little bit again, further to the right, then we'll go back to the left a little bit, and then we'll move on to the right side like this, and then we'll drag in the color underneath to fill the area. Here as well, we can make the edges a little bit more crisp. We can go to the eraser and make these areas a little bit more pointy. Next, we'll make a layer underneath this layer. So first we need to tap layer 3, then tap the plus, and then for our color, we'll grab this one over here, the 9th color in the second row, or actually it's like the 6th color, but it's in the spot where the 9th color would be. Now let's zoom in a little bit, and we'll make a shape attached to this pointy part. Like this, a diagonal wobbly line that will loop around to close the shape, and then you can fill it. This is the area where the rock is going downward into like the valley. Let's loop around here. Let's do the same over here. Wobbly diagonal line, loop around, and fill these shapes. Next, let's make some more rocks. Let's make a new layer underneath this one. So first tap layer 3, then tap the plus for a new layer. And then for the color, we are going to grab this one over here. It's the 7th color in the first row. And for instance, let's make a rock over here that will go higher than our background rocks. Something like this behind the other one. Close the shape. Drag in the color, and let's also make some rocky shapes over here. A little bit random, something like this. Go all the way to the right, make sure you loop around to close the shape and drag in the color. And again, you can use the eraser to cut off some parts, to sculpt your rocks a little bit. Add some nice crisp edges. Make sure that it's not too rounded. And next we are going to make something like a ravine or a crack that's going through the surface of this planet. And we are going to do that on a new layer on top of layer 3. So first tap layer 3, then tap the plus. And then for the color, we are going to use this 8th color in the first row. We are going to grab the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. We'll set it to freehand and we'll turn on color fill. And the selection tool is great when you want to create crisp edges, nice pointy shapes. We are going to start about here. And we are going to make this jagged shape. Go back to the right, diagonally down to the left. And back again, more to the left, and then all the way to this area. Then we'll loop around here, and we are going to make more of these cracks to the right, back to the left. It's like a bit like a lightning bolt, and to the right here. Here we'll get a little bit closer together. It'll get thinner. And here it'll close. Then tap the S shape ribbon again to check your shape. And what you can do now is use the selection tool to add parts to it. Let's go tap the S shape ribbon. For instance, I want this area to be a little bit bigger. I want it to be more like this. Then I'll just close the selection and I'll have added a part to this crack. I also want this to be a little bit deeper. Close the selection. But in the same manner, you can also remove parts of it. Let's tap the S shape ribbon first, then tap it again, then turn off color fill. And now for instance, if you want to remove a little part over here, you can just make this selection, close it, and then swipe with 3 fingers to remove it. And you can do that until you have sculpted your perfect little crack. Now let's add some more rocks to that landscape. We can actually do that on layer 7 where we also have those other rocks. We are going to use the same color again, which was this one over here, 7 color in the first row. And you can either make these rock shapes by using the brush again, or you can use the selection tool again, the S shape ribbon, set it to color fill, and let's make some random rocks. Like over here, we can make one that's going above our horizon. Make a jagged little shape like this. Then we'll create a smaller one over here. I also want some rocks over here. These could really be random jagged shapes. We're making a stylized landscape here, so you don't have to give it too much thought. And just like with that crack, that ravine, you can of course use the selection tool, continue using the selection tool to add parts or to remove parts. Let's tap the S shape ribbon. You could also use the eraser. For instance, I feel like this one is a little bit too big. I'll just grab the eraser and drop my pencil and then just erase a little part here. I think it looks good like this. Now let's move on to our planets. Let's make a big planet in our sky. Let's first go to layer 1, then tap the plus for a new layer. And then for the color, let's grab this one, the 4th color in the first row. Now for our brush, I want to switch to the monoline brush, since that brush, it doesn't get affected by pressure. So we'll just have an equally thick or thin line when we draw. And you need that when creating a circle, otherwise your circle might not be perfectly round. Now the opacity of the brush is at 100% and I have the size set to 10%. And now let's draw a circle here. Draw a circle, hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape, and then tap 1 finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly round circle. Then drag in the color to fill the shape, and I want it to be in the center, so let's go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow. Then over here under snapping, turn on snapping, and then move it around until you see that vertical line. Let's place it over here. Then we'll go to the layer menu and we'll make a new layer by tapping the plus. And this time for the color, we are going to grab this first color in the 2nd row. And now we are going to draw an oval here. Hold your pen in place again to make it snap to the quick shape. Then over here, go to edit shape and make an oval like this. Try to make sure that both sides have an equal amount of space. I think something like this looks good. Then tap the brush to get out of that ellipse menu and then make another oval right inside. Hold your pen in place, go to edit shape, and make sure that this one is a little bit smaller, and still make sure that the amount of space on each side is equal. Make it nice and flat. So you should get something like this. Then drag in the color to fill the ring. Next we'll go to our layer menu. We'll go to layer 9, tap it, then use select to make a selection of the planet, but make sure to turn off color fill here at the bottom. And when you have an active selection, you can only paint or erase inside of the selection. And that's super handy here because we want to erase this part of that ring. So let's go to layer 10, then grab our eraser and then erase the top part. You might need to make your brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 25%. And then make sure to erase everything here at the top. And then you can simply tap the S shape ribbon again to turn off the selection. Now let's add 2 more planets. Let's do that on a new layer. So let's tap the plus. And for our brush, let's still use the monoline brush. Let's make a small little planet over here. Let's draw a circle. Hold your pen in place. Tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle. You might need to go to Edit Shape to move it around if you want. And then drag in the color to fill it. I also want a bigger planet over here, so let's grab that blue again, 4th color in the first row. And then let's make a circle over here. Hold your pen in place. Tap one finger on the screen. And then you might need to go to Edit Shape to move it where you want it to be, and then drag in the color to fill it. Now we have all the elements we need for our illustration, and we are going to move on and add all the textures. Let's start with our sky and move from the back to the front. So first we'll go to layer 1, which is our sky layer, and then for our brush, we are going to use a brush from the Treasure Chest brush pack. Remember, you can go to freefromflow.com to get it for free. And let's use the spackle brush. Now for the color, we are going to grab this color over here, first color in the first row. And the opacity of the brush is set to 75% and the size is at 45%. And let's just go over the top area and make that a little bit darker. We are going to use the spackle brush to create something of a gradient here in our sky, but it will be like a textured gradient. So just make these dark spackles at the top area. And then we'll switch to a lighter color. We'll grab this one over here, the 3rd color in the first row. And then we'll go over the lower area. You can gently go over that area and make more strokes at the bottom area than in like the center area. And we can go even lighter. Let's grab this color over here, the 2nd color in the 2nd row. And here near the horizon, we are going to make it even lighter. We'll make a bit of like a rounded shape here. So we'll go a bit lower in the center and we'll go upward a little bit on the sides. And if it's getting too light, then you can just switch back to that 3rd color in the first row and go over there again. And you can go back and forth until you get a nice, smooth transition. I think this is looking good. Let's move on to our planet. Let's start with our rings for our planet. First thing we'll do is add a layer mask here. We'll tap the layer, then use mask. Now you'll see a layer mask attached to our layer. Right now it's completely white, and that means we'll see everything from this layer. But as soon as we start painting on it with black, we'll start masking things. So what we'll do is we'll grab the monoline brush again. Let's go to our recent brushes here at the top. Grab the monoline brush. Our color is already set to black. And now let's draw an oval like this. Hold your pen in place, then go to Edit Shape to adjust it a little bit and make it follow the big ring. So you get something like this. Now let's do this again. Let's tap the brush first and then make our brush a little bit bigger. For instance, 25%, let's check. Yeah, that's nice. And I will make another oval, which is a little bit smaller. Hold your pen in place, go to Edit Shape, and adjust it a little bit so it's following the ring nicely. It's a little bit tricky, but I think something like this looks nice. And then let's grab a different brush. Let's go to the brushes and use the spackle brush. And while we still have it set to black and the size of the brush is still at 45%, let's go over these rings and add this texture. And I want it to be more transparent right behind our planet. So let's go there multiple times so that this area is lighter than this area behind our planet. Next, we'll switch to white, go to the color menu and then double tap here to grab white. And then we'll go over this front area just a little bit to paint some of that back in. And now in just a few steps, you have created these awesome rings around our planet. Now let's move on to our planet, to layer 9. Let's turn on alpha lock here. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock. So that way our paint will only end up on our planet itself. And now we are going to use the selection tool. So let's go to the S shape ribbon. Because remember, when you make a selection, you will only be able to paint inside of that selection. And we are going to make use of that. We are going to add a little bit of a pattern to our planet. So we are going to make these rounded shapes, like lines on our planet. Then loop around, close the selection, and now you can grab a color. Let's grab this one, for instance, the 5th color in the first row. We still have our spackle brush. And now let's go over that selection, just like this, to add that nice pattern to our planet. Then tap the S shape ribbon again to turn off the selection. And now let's go over even more. Let's add more of that purple here in the lower edge, or lower area. I want the most light to be at the top here, and I want some shadow here at the bottom. So let's grab a dark blue. Let's start with this one, 2nd color in the first row. Add some shadow here with a few strokes. And then let's go even darker by grabbing that 1st color in the first row. And add some darker spackles here. On the other end, I want some light. So let's grab a lighter blue. Let's start with this one, 2nd color in the 2nd row. Let's just go over there, make some rounded motions for some lighter blue. And then let's also switch to this one, the 3rd color in the 2nd row, which is even brighter. Let's add that to the top here. Now let's also add some texture to the other planets. Let's go to layer 11. Don't forget to turn on alpha lock so our paint will only end up on the planets. Now for the color, let's grab this 9th color in the 1st row and add a little bit of spackles to this one over here. Then for this planet, I would like to add a little pattern again. So let's go to the selection tool. And this time, let's make a little bit of a wavy pattern. So make a wavy selection, back and forth. A little bit at the bottom, then loop around, close the selection, grab the brush, and with the same color, let's add this little pattern. Then turn off the selection tool by tapping the S shape ribbon. And then we'll go over again, add a little bit to the lower area here. Then let's switch and grab this color over here, 4th color in the 2nd row, and add a little bit of light to this area, to the top left. Now for a final touch to our sky, I would like to add a little bit like super wispy clouds. We're going to do that on a layer on top of our sky and planet. So tap the plus and let's make some selections. Let's tap the S shape ribbon. And we are going to make these pointy shapes like this. Pointy shape, close the selection. Another pointy shape, close the selection. One over here, you can go over the planets. Let's do the same over here. Pointy shape, one over here. Perhaps one here as well. Close the selection, then grab the brush. So tap the brush, and then for the color, grab this light one over here, the third color in the second row. I'll just go over these selections, fill them with these spackles. Then turn off the selection by tapping the S shape ribbon, and let's lower the opacity of this layer a little bit. You can tap the N, scroll to the left, and set it to, for instance, 40%. Now let's move on to our planet's surface. We'll start with layer 2. First, turn on alpha lock. Then for our color, let's still use this blue. And for our brush, we are still using the spackle brush. And we'll just go over the lower area of these mountains. Very gently add a little bit of texture there, just like this. Then we'll move on to this surface, that's layer 3. Again, turn on alpha lock so we won't be painting outside of the shape. Then for our color, we are going to grab this one over here, the 7 color in the first row. And we are going to make some jagged selections again. Tap the S shape ribbon, and let's make some random pointy shapes on the surface of this planet. Close the selection here, then do the same thing over here. This will add some interest to that surface. So we have these slightly diagonal pointy shapes. Then we'll grab the brush, and then we'll just go over here and paint inside of those selections to add some interest to that surface. And turn off the selection to check it out. I think it looks nice. Now let's add some more spackles by just going over the surface very gently. And we'll keep the top area a bit lighter. So we'll only go over that middle ground and the foreground here. And then over here at the bottom, I would like to add some of that blue. So let's go and first grab this one, 4th color in the first row, for some pretty dark blue. Well, it looks very light when added here. And then we'll also grab that very bright blue, the 3rd color in the second row, and we'll go over this foreground area a little bit. Next, we are going to work on that ravine. So we'll go to that layer, that's layer 8. We'll turn on alpha lock. And then for our color, we'll want a color that is lighter than that crack itself. So for the color, let's grab this 5th color in the first row. Now let's zoom in a little bit. And we are going to work with the selection tool again. Let's grab the S shape ribbon. Let's zoom in even more. And we are going to make horizontal selections starting at these points. So for instance here, we'll make a selection going down, then we'll loop around, close the selection, then grab the brush, and then let's set it to a different size. Let's set it to 10% and go along this edge like this. Then we'll make another selection. So we'll tap the S shape ribbon, then tap it again, and go over this area. Make a selection, close it, grab the brush, and go along the edge here. Very gently. Then tap the S shape ribbon again, and we'll do this for each of these areas. We'll grab the selection tool again, make a selection here, close it, grab the brush, and add some light to this edge. And grab the selection tool again, select this area. You can also do multiple areas. You can select these two, then grab the brush, go along the edge, and close the selection tool and open it again. So you can go along all of these edges, close that selection, Let's make one over here as well. And you can make it a little bit wonky, that line, that selection line. Let's grab the brush, go over here. You don't need perfectly vertical lines. It'll look more like rock if you make it a little bit jagged. Tap the S shape ribbon again and again for these selections. Close it, grab the brush, and then go over that edge. Then tap the S shape ribbon again. Let's continue. Move forward. For instance, for this one, close the selection. Let's do it over here as well. Then grab the brush, go over the edge. Then tap the S shape ribbon again and continue moving forward. Select this area, this one as well. Grab the brush and go over the edge. Now once you zoom out, you will be surprised about the effect. It's really nice. Let's tap the S shape ribbon again for these final areas. This one. Close the selection, grab the brush, go over the edge. Then we have one more to go. So tap the S shape ribbon, then again, in this final little area, grab the brush, go over the edge, and then we will finally be able to check the result. Tap the S shape ribbon, zoom out, and now we have this really nice result. Now let's continue working. Let's work on these rocks that we have on the next layer, layer 7. Let's turn on alpha lock. And for our color, let's grab this color over here, the 8 color in the first row, and let's make some selections again. We'll grab the S shape ribbon and let's make some jagged selections in these rocks so we can add some interest here. So just like some lightning bolt shapes. Over here we can make some like more horizontal shapes. It's all about adding some interest to these areas. Add some over here. And then we can grab the brush again and simply go over there. Let's make the brush a bit bigger again. Let's set it to 45%. And now we can tap the S shape ribbon again and move on to the other rocks on this side. Let's grab the S shape ribbon, make some jagged shapes again. It's really like little lightning bolts or triangular shapes. Now for this one, we can make some more like diagonal shapes, pointy shapes, like this. Grab the brush, go over. Then turn off the selection tool to check it out. For these ones in the foreground, I want to add some more shadow. So let's grab an even darker color. Let's grab this one, the last color in the first row. And let's just go over and add some more shadow to really separate them from that pink foreground. And for this one, I want to use the selection tool, the S shape ribbon. Make another jagged shape here. Loop around, close it. Grab the brush and go over here for a nice shadow. Then tap the S shape ribbon again. And we can also add some blue here to separate them even more from the foreground. So let's grab that 4th blue here in the first row and then grab the brush And then go over this area really gently. Here as well, the lower area. Then finally, I want to add a little bit of pinkish light to these rocks that are more towards the background. So let's grab this color, 9th color in the first row. Let's grab the selection tool again and select these edges here. And a little bit over here. Little edge on this one. It's hard to see them, but let's select some parts on these rocks as well. And some jagged shapes here. Close it, grab the brush, paint over these areas. And on this rock. So all the rocks here, then turn off the selection tool, and now we have that nice pinkish edge. Now we are going to move on to the foreground. First, let's go to layer 6. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock. Then for the color, let's grab this one. First color in the second row. And let's gently go over that edge. Really subtle. And maybe we can also use some of this color. 4th color in the second row. A little bit of that light purple. Feel like it's getting a little bit too light. So we can simply go back and grab this color again. And then go over and make it slightly darker again. Then we'll move on. We'll go to layer 5. Here as well, we'll turn on alpha lock, and we are going to play around with the selection tool again. We are going to add some texture here. So first, let's grab the selection tool and let's make some shapes, like these pointy shapes. Really jagged. Really doesn't matter what you do. Let's make it nice and pointy. Then let's grab our brush, the spackle brush. For the color, let's use this one, which we have already selected. And let's just go over some of these areas, especially in the foreground. Now let's switch to a lighter color. Let's grab this one, first color in the second row. And let's go over some of these areas that are further away. Oh, playing around with the opacity there. Didn't mean to do that. I don't remember what it was set to. I think 65. So something like this, then turn it off. Then let's make even more selections. So more of these random shapes. Some over here. Grab some here. Then we'll grab a different color. We'll grab this 5th color in the second row, grab the brush, and add some of that bright pink. And perhaps some of that darker as well, this color. Then turn it off. And then let's also just go over here. And this way you can blend everything together a little bit, make it less harsh. Now let's also go to that bright pink, that 5th color in the second row, and let's go over these edges a little bit. I want it to be nice and bright. And then over here, I want some of that blue again. So let's first grab that 4th color in the first row. Let's go over this area. First some subtle blue, and then we'll grab that brighter one, that 3rd color in the second row. And we'll add some lighter blue as well. just so it nicely separates from those rocks in the foreground. Now let's move on to those rocks. Let's go to layer 4. Let's turn on alpha lock. And then let's grab the selection tool. Let's make a jagged selection like this. We'll go in this direction. We'll make a selection here, nice and pointy. Just something like this. All the way to here. We'll loop around to make a big selection, close it, then grab this very dark color over here, last color in the second row, grab your brush and go over there. I'm not sure if you will see it properly on the video because it's a very subtle shadow. Just go over there to add a little bit of darkness. Then we'll turn off the selection, make a new selection to add some light. So this time we'll make another jagged selection. And this time we'll add some lighter parts. Some parts of these smaller rocks. Then this area. Just create a random shape. Loop around, close the selection, and then for the color, grab this one over here. Ninth color in the first row, grab the brush, and then go over there for a nice pinkish highlight. And tap the S shape ribbon again. And you can see that that has added a little bit more interest to our foreground rocks. Then for some final touches, we are going to grab a different brush. We'll go to the treasure chest brush pack and grab the round chalk brush. And for our color, we are going to grab this third color in the second row. The opacity of this brush is set to 100%. Let's set the size to 2%. And let's go along the edges of these rocks to add a few highlights and to separate them even more from the background. Over here, we can add a little bit of a light edge. Don't make it too big, just a thin little edge. I can really see how it nicely separates this rock from that one in the background. It'll make the drawing easier to read. Let's do the same for those rocks actually. Those are on layer 7 over here. Let's also go along the edge here. So they don't merge too much with the background. Then this one. Also add a little bit of light like this. And we can do something similar for this area, the pink area, which is on layer 5. But let's use a different color. Let's grab this one over here. First color in the second row. So it'll be a bit more subtle. We can add a little bit of light around these edges. Just to make it easier to read. Then finally, for the final touch, I would like to add some stars. Let's go to layer 1. Let's grab that light blue color again, third color in the second row, and let's just add some stars. Just these tiny little dots in some random places, mostly at the top where it's darkest. I'm just using that round chalk brush so that it nicely fits the texture of the illustration. So just a few down here. But most of them will be at the top. So add stars until you have something like this. And that's it. You have created your own outer space scene. I hope you have enjoyed the process. If you did, then why not turn it into a streak and follow this tutorial next? I would like to thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.